Hello and welcome to Oak Island Theories. In this video, we are going to explore the theory that the money pit contains the precious contents of a Spanish treasure galleon which foundered during a storm. Let's take a look.
One of the most prominent Oak Island theories, to which veteran treasure hunter Dan Blankenship and Oak Island authority Darcy O'Connor adhere, is that the crew of a doomed Spanish treasure galleon buried their ship's precious cargo on Oak Island sometime between 1550 and 1650. The Spanish Empire to which this hypothetical treasure galleon belonged was formed in the late 1400s. All throughout the Middle Ages and the early Renaissance, Spain was divided into two separate kingdoms, the Kingdom of Castile and the Kingdom of Aragon. On October 19, 1469, Princess Isabella I of Castile married Prince Ferdinand II of Aragon, uniting the two Spanish kingdoms. When Ferdinand II succeeded his father as King of Aragon in 1479, he fused his kingdom with Isabella's and, for the first time since the Visigothic Kingdom of Spain felt the Islamic Berbers in the 8th century, Christian Spain was ruled by a single monarchy, known today as the Spanish Empire. In 1492, Italian navigator Christopher Columbus, on behalf of Queen Isabella I of Castile and her newly formed Spanish Empire, sailed west from the Iberian Peninsula in the hopes of discovering an alternative route to India. Instead, he discovered the Caribbean. In the decades that followed, the Spanish conquered and colonized several regions of this new world. First, Christopher Columbus and his brother Bartholomew initiated the settlement of the Caribbean, displacing the local Carib and Arawak peoples to create the Spanish Antilles. In the early 1520s, Spanish conquistador Hernando Cortés conquered the mighty Aztec Empire of central Mexico and established a colony in the rubble of the old capital. At the same time, various conquistadors wrested the Yucatan Peninsula and Guatemala from control of the local Maya and claimed the land for Spain. In Peru, Ecuador, and Bolivia, conquistador Francisco Pizarro conquered the powerful Inca Empire and appropriated its wealth on behalf of the Spanish crown. In Paraguay, Uruguay, and northern Argentina, conquistadors fought off the local Charrua Indians to carve settlements from the jungle. And in Colombia and Venezuela, conquistador Gonzalo Jiménez de Quesada subdued the local Muisca Indians to establish the new Kingdom of Granada. In the years that followed these conquests of the New World, Spanish administrators and missionaries established Spanish colonies and converted natives to Christianity, respectively, all throughout Central and South America. This agglomeration of Spanish colonies, which stretched from the northern frontier of Texas and Florida to as far south as Concepcion, Chile, became known collectively as New Spain. The governors of these new Spanish colonies collected the gold, silver, and jeweled artifacts of the various empires and civilizations the conquistadors had vanquished, melting them down into ingots and shipping them off to Spain. Once those treasures had been depleted, the new Spanish colonists used local Indians as slave labor in the gold, emerald, and especially silver mines of the conquered civilizations. The ore from these mines was smelted and formed into bars and coins before being shipped across the Atlantic to Spain. The riches of the New World quickly transformed Spain into the wealthiest kingdom in Europe, enabling it to push the boundaries of its rapidly growing domain and dominate the world scene. In time, the Spanish Empire's colonial territory, which included islands in the Mediterranean and Atlantic, cities in North Africa, countries in Europe, and the oceanic route between the New World and the Philippines being a newly established Old World Spanish colony named after King Philip II, nearly circumnavigated the globe latitudinally, earning it the epithet, the empire on which the sun never sets. By the mid-16th century, Spain had entered a golden age, an era of unrivaled prosperity which would last a century. During this time, the Spanish Empire organized its New World treasure galleons into three separate treasure fleets. The Tierra Firme fleet shipped Spanish goods and New World products to and from Spain and Colombia. The Nueva España fleet shipped Spanish goods and New World products / Asian imports to and from Spain and Mexico. The third fleet, the Manila fleet, shipped Ming Chinese goods and New World silver to and from Mexico and the Philippines. Upon leaving their New World ports, treasure galleons from both the Tierra Firme and Nueva España fleets would assemble in the well-fortified Havana Bay on the Caribbean island of Cuba, organize into convoys with heavily armored warships guarding the fore and rear, and sail to Spain. Although these Spain-bound fleets initially took a course due east, they eventually followed the Gulf Stream, a warm, powerful Atlantic Ocean current, northeast along the North American coast to Newfoundland, before sailing across the Atlantic to Spain. This course brought the Spanish galleons right along the coast of Nova Scotia. Proponents of the Spanish theory of Oak Island believe that a homeward-bound treasure galleon of either the Tierra Firme or Nueva España fleets was separated from its convoy during a storm and shipwrecked on Oak Island. Such events were not uncommon during the hazardous voyages over the Atlantic, and a number of Spanish treasure galleons carrying millions of dollars worth of precious cargo, having failed to reach Spanish ports, were written off as having been lost at sea. Blankenship, O'Connor, and other subscribers to this theory believe that the crew of this shipwrecked vessel buried their ship's treasure in the Money Pit and constructed the Smith's Cove flood tunnel to protect it from both independent pirates and privateers employed by rival European kingdoms. When that was accomplished, they patched their ship up as well as they could and sailed off into the North Atlantic. Somewhere along the way, they took on water and sank, taking the secret of Oak Island with them to the bottom of the ocean. After their successive conquests of Central and South America, the Spanish appropriated the treasures of the Aztecs, Mayans, Incas, and other New World peoples before shipping them off to Spain. These treasures consisted of intricately designed, often jewel-encrusted gold, silver, tumbaga, which is a gold-silver-copper alloy, and infrequently platinum artifacts which the Spanish typically melted down into ingots before shipping off to Spain. Once the treasures of the conquered nations of the Americas were depleted, the Spanish exploited the gold, copper, emerald, and particularly silver mines of the region. Gold, silver, and copper ore was smelted in New World settlements, its molten product being then formed into ingots and coins before being loaded into the cargo holds of Spanish-bound treasure galleons. In addition to New World gold, silver, and precious stones, Spanish treasure galleons were often also loaded with silk, spices, and precious Chinese porcelain, acquired in the Philippines, the site of another Spanish colony. If the precious cargo of a lost Spanish treasure galleon is indeed buried on Oak Island, it likely consists of a combination of New World gold and silver coins and ingots and Ming-era Chinese trade goods. Like all major empires, the Spanish Empire had its highs and lows. Spain's most rapid and enduring ascendancy to world prominence occurred in the wake of its conquest and colonization of the Americas, while its steepest decline arguably occurred in the mid-17th century, when a combination of plagues, increased Atlantic piracy, the exhaustion of several major New World silver mines, and a long, draining revolutionary war with disgruntled Dutch vassals wore it down. In the century that spanned those two episodes, however, Spain enjoyed a century of tremendous prosperity known as the Spanish Golden Age. The Spanish Golden Age was characterized by an explosion of Spanish art, literature, and architecture. Under the patronage of newly wealthy Spanish aristocrats, merchants, and clergymen, Spanish painters, sculptors, architects, composers, authors, and poets produced some of the most important and enduring pieces of Spanish art. Some of the products of the Spanish Golden Age include the painting Las Maniñas by Diego Velázquez, the Royal Palace El Escorial in Madrid, the haunting Officium Defunctorum by composer Tomás Luis de Victoria, and the novel Don Quixote by Miguel de Cervantes. Of course, the wealth that financed all these cultural developments was predominantly attributable to the raw resources of the New World, which crossed the Atlantic in record volumes during this time. If a wrecked Spanish treasure galleon did wash up on Oak Island, champions of the Spanish theory argue that it would likely have done so between 1550 and 1650, during this period of extensive transatlantic Spanish traffic. Over the years, various Oak Island treasure hunters have unearthed a sizable body of evidence pointing to a Spanish connection with the Oak Island mystery. Some have argued that the huge amounts of coconut fiber found in both the Money Pit and Smith's Cove over the years is in accordance with the Spanish theory, as the Spanish were known to have used coconut fiber as packing material in the cargo holds of their ships. In the spring of 1967, Triton Alliance unearthed fragments of old oak wood from a number of drill holes in the Money Pit area. They carbon dated these wood fragments from 1490 to 1660, a timeline which corresponds with the Spanish theory. Oak Island treasure hunters Robert and Bobby Restall, Robert Dunfield, Dan Blankenship, and Rick and Marty Lagina all recovered fragments of china on Oak Island at depth. These findings appear to be congruent with the Spanish theory, which asserts that the Money Pit treasure consists, in part, of Ming-era Chinese porcelain. Some researchers have suggested that the piece of sheepskin parchment with the letters VI written on it in India ink, discovered by Frederick Blair and William Chappell at depth in the Money Pit in the late 1800s, is another piece of evidence suggesting a Spanish connection with Oak Island. As was the case in most of Europe at the time, Age of Discovery Spain drew up its most important documents on animal skin parchment. Although it should be mentioned that, by the 15th century, Italian paper had eclipsed parchment in popularity as a writing material throughout Europe. One of the strongest pieces of evidence indicating a Spanish connection with the Oak Island mystery is the pair of wrought iron scissors Dan Blankenship discovered beneath one of the Smith's Cove box drains in the summer of 1970. Experts who analyzed the artifact determined that it was forged in the 17th or 18th century, and that it was of Spanish-Mexican design. Another piece of evidence strongly hinting that the Spanish were behind the Oak Island workings is the Spanish 8 Maravedi discovered in the Oak Island swamp by Rick Lagina and crew in Season 1, Episode 5 of The Curse of Oak Island. This copper coin was minted in 1652 for the purpose of circulation in Spain's New World colonies, a date which corresponds with that of the Spanish theory. In Season 2, Episode 5, researcher Daniel Ronstam put forth the theory that the Kempton symbols constitute a dual cipher, which, when decoded, forms a message in Spanish. In Season 4, Episode 3, Tony Sampson discovered a wooden plank in the Money Pit, which was carbon dated from 1680 to 1735 with a 95% degree of accuracy, a range somewhat consistent with the Spanish theory. In Season 4, Episode 7, Gary Drayton discovered an iron nail at the northern end of the Oak Island swamp. Although the artifact strongly resembles a railroad spike, Drayton maintained that it was in fact a deck nail from a Spanish galleon, remarking that he had found many similar nails on Florida's Treasure Coast. Antiquities expert Dr. Lori Verderam verified Drayton's theory in the Season 4 finale when she examined the artifact and determined it to be a wrought iron barot nail of the type commonly used in the construction of Spanish galleons. She dated the artifact from 1575 to 1600. In Season 4, Episode 15, Dr. Lori Verderam analyzed the McGinnis family cross, first introduced in the Season 3 finale, which an old McGinnis family legend asserts was discovered in a decoy treasure chest in the Money Pit by Daniel McGinnis in 1795. Dr. Verderam concluded that the artifact was composed of high quality, specifically 22 to 24 karat, rose gold, was likely cast in the Spanish West Indies sometime between 1550 and 1700, and was intended to house emeralds, an important Peruvian export. In Season 5, Episodes 5 and 6, 2 human bones were discovered in the spoils of borehole H8. One of these bones was later determined to have come from a person of European ancestry, while the other was determined to have come from a person of Middle Eastern ancestry. Both of these ethnicities are consistent with the Spanish theory, the European one for obvious reasons, and the Middle Eastern one on account of the fact that, in post-Reconquista Spain, Moors from North Africa, who were of Berber and Arab pedigree, often served as Spanish slaves, or, if they nominally converted to Christianity, lived freely as Moriscos, literally Moors. In Season 5, Episode 8, the European bone was carbon dated from 1678 to 1764, while the Middle Eastern bone was carbon dated from 1682 to 1736. Both of these date ranges are vaguely consistent with the Spanish theory. In Season 5, Episode 16, the men of Oak Island Tours Inc. discovered a piece of wood which they carbon dated from 1684 to 1732, a date range somewhat congruent with the Spanish theory. In Season 5, Episode 16, the descendants of a man named Harold Bishop, who worked as a crane operator for Robert Dunfield, submitted for analysis a piece of wood which Bishop discovered in the Money Pit area in the 1960s. This piece proved to date from 1646 to 1690, a date range accordant with the Spanish theory. In Season 5, Episode 16, Gary Drayton discovered a rhodolite garnet brooch on Oak Island's Lot 8. In the Season 5 finale, an unnamed gemologist determined that the artifact was crafted in the 16th or 17th century, a date range which corresponds with the Spanish theory. In Season 6, Episode 17, Gary Drayton and Jack Begley discovered a silver coin, which Drayton suspected might be a Spanish Juan Real, in the mud beneath the slipway on Smith's Cove. It must be mentioned that the coin's edge was milled, indicating that it is likely no older than 1730. And in Season 3, Episode 11, Craig Tester revealed that the eelgrass discovered beneath Smith's Cove was carbon dated from 1470 to 1650, a date range perfectly consistent with the Spanish theory. What are your thoughts on the Spanish theory of Oak Island? Let me know in the comments below.
Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video and would like to support this channel, please check out the Oak Island Encyclopedia by clicking the link in the description.